Hello, everyone. Absolutely a pleasure being with you all here today. What I'm going to talk about is an extraordinary disruption that we are right now in the midst of. Everything around the consumers and how consumers are going to interact with everything around them is going to change pretty dramatically. So much so that we can actually write a whole book on this very topic. And coincidentally, I have just written such a book. I call it Quantum Marketing. Let's look at the scenario. I'll just give you a little bit of an example from physics, and then I'll come quickly into marketing, and then I'll tell you some of my top line thoughts as to how we need to reinvent and reimagine marketing. So in the world of physics, when there were Newton and a whole bunch of scientists before that, they used to explain everything around us through various laws of physics. The whole field was called classical physics or Newtonian physics. It had things like laws of electricity, magnetism, gravity, and so on and so forth. Interestingly, these theories have all failed completely when the size of anything is gigantic, like the cosmos, the galaxies, the Milky Ways, and so on. The classical physics laws would not work there. Likewise, in subatomic particles, in the microcosms, classical physics would fail. And when the speed of an object reaches or is tending towards the speed of light, classical physics fails. So Max Planck actually had come up with this whole new field of physics called quantum physics. And quantum physics was meant to exactly explain through various laws how the world will work across the board. I found a striking similarity between that and what is happening in the field of marketing. Given the level of disruption that we are going through marketing at this point in time, the classical theories and the classical frameworks of marketing are not going to work. We need to reinvent and reimagine marketing completely. Marketing, I would say, has gone through 5 stages of evolution. Stage number 1, or era number 1, I call it paradigm number 1, is about logic and rational. It's the hypothesis that people think rationally and logically when they are making their decisions. If you produce the best product, people will rush in and buy it so long as the value is good and so long as the distribution is good. However, people have realized, marketers have realized that there is something called psychology, that there is something called emotions. And people don't take decisions rationally or logically, but they do it emotionally. So much so that marketers have absorbed it into their field in paradigm 2, where they have started advertising a product or a company or a brand even to the exclusion of that product. Mastercard is a classical example. Our priceless campaign doesn't talk anything about the product. It talks about things that money cannot buy, that are truly precious, that are truly priceless in your life. For everything else, of course, there is Mastercard. We don't talk about the product. It's very contra or contrarian in its approach. Marketing evolved to the next paradigm, which is all about data and internet. And marketers have suddenly realized the power of data. Till that time, data was in the purvey of the geeks and the researchers and the scientists and the economists. But marketers have suddenly found the power and joy of data. They have been able to do precision targeting. They have been able to measure return on investment, optimize their investments. Data has taken a significant predominance in the field of marketing. And of course, internet has changed the entire space of marketing like anything. You could reach a consumer in real time, in a contextually appropriate fashion, and through internet, and that was amazing. Paradigm 4 is when 2 significant technologies were born. One is mobile technology, which became really ubiquitous thanks to the internet. And second is the social media platforms. These two have totally changed people's lives. The mobile devices have become literally like an extension of the human body. And the social media has become a way of life. People are spending so much of time on the social media to reconnect with their schoolmates from God knows 30, 40 years back. And then the kind of interactions are amazing. And they do talk about brands, and brands get influenced in those decisions. This is paradigm 4, which has been nothing like the preceding times that were there. And marketers have to reinvent about what is social marketing, how do you really do digital marketing on steroids, where now you have an opportunity to understand where the consumer is at any point in time and serve communication or messages or offers or promotions to them in a contextually appropriate fashion, in a very relevant fashion. Now, if you look at each one of these preceding paradigms, there are probably 2 or 3 technologies which have disrupted the field. But right now, we are having a multitude of technologies that are coming at us. That is going to totally change the entire space of consumers as well as therefore marketing. Let's look at this. Artificial intelligence is changing the game completely. You have got wearables. You have got Internet of Things. You got autonomous cars. You got drones. You have got 3D printing. You have got 5G. The slew of technologies which are coming, each one by itself has got a humongous amount of disruption possibilities. Look at augmented reality, virtual reality, holographic projections. There are so many things which are happening now. The way consumers are going to interact with their environment is going to be totally different. Just take one example, smart speakers. Smart speakers have been recently launched not too long ago, but already more than 25% of all the households in the United States already have a smart speaker as at the end of 2019. Now, what's the big deal about it? The big deal is consumers, when they were, for example, doing their search in the previous times, it would all be based on a visual interaction with a screen. Now, suddenly you're going into a different dimension called voice or sound. So you say, hey, Alexa, or hey, Google, and then you ask for something and they recommend something back to you or they answer you back. If it is about a product recommendation, interestingly, a vast number of people have said that they go by the recommendation of that engine instead of asking it to do something else, which means now you have a new decision maker or an influencer at a minimum who is getting into the purchase funnel. That has got a huge implication for marketers. So how does a brand show up in this kind of an environment? So if you have a beautiful logo, or if you have a fantastic design system that is geared up for the visual environment, what do you do for an audio environment? The simple answer, sonic branding. So each one of these technologies is very disruptive. We need to create the ecosystems to be able to reach the consumers in the right context, in the right manner, through the right medium, which is very different than the other media. And you need to be able to interact and engage with the consumers and influence their choice in favor of your brand. That is all going to be absolutely astoundingly different tomorrow. This is what I call as paradigm 5. And the marketing I'm saying is what is quantum marketing, like quantum physics. To explain these very different kind of scenarios, quantum marketing is required for us to really be successful and thrive into the future. I'll just touch upon 3 or 4 topics a little bit more in depth. So let's look at crisis management. When marketers looked at crisis management, it was all about there is some tweet or some campaign which has fallen flat on its face. It has generated a lot of conversation in the society, and you want to defend and protect your brand. It was more a PR kind of an exercise to manage your brand reputation and protect it. Now, crisis is taking a very, very different approach in the future. Right now, we are in the middle of not one crisis, but multiplicity of crises. Unfortunately, we have got the health crisis thanks to the coronavirus. We have got an economic crisis because millions of small businesses have closed down and millions of people have lost their jobs, and there is a huge issue. In 2008, 2007, when there was a financial crisis, it took us 18 months to come out of recession with just one financial crisis. Now you have got the health crisis, you got the economic crisis, you got the crisis of confidence as far as consumers are concerned. Their spend levels have come down dramatically across multiple industries. So much so that some of the industries are totally frozen. If you look at travel industry, It is at a probably historic low in terms of people not traveling. And the scope of this entire crisis is very global in its nature. Now, what does this mean to marketers? 3 years back, it was fortuitous that I was sitting and sort of thinking about what we should do in future. How do we get ready for the next block of years and what's coming over the horizon? One of the things I said at the time was crisis management is going to be important. We got so much of dependence now on data and technology that marketing is not immune to cyber hacks, data compromises. So are we as marketers fully ready for it, or are we delegating it to the IT people and say they will take care of it? Number one. Number two, reputational crisis, of course, that has been part of our lives. It's going to be there even more as we go forward. Number three, you also have got financial crisis. You have got brand privacy, brand security crisis. Then you got consumer privacy crisis. There could be so many crises that can materialize that it is not a question of if a crisis would happen, but crisis is going to be a part of our life going forward. So with that thought, what I did is I formed a group within Mastercard. I asked my previous CFO to take on the role of the head of risk management for marketing. So she is within marketing and she looks at all the risks and tries to quantify the potential probabilities that these risks will materialize. And if these risks materialize, what is the likely impact, and create a heat map around this whole thing. So in a single view, we know what the risks are at this point in time, what we need to pay attention to, and then have contingency plans, either A, to mitigate the risk, or B, if the risk does materialize, how do you contain it? How do you minimize it? And also you need to train your people. You need to have your contingency plans ready. So thank God we had all those building blocks at that time put in place, that when the coronavirus had come, while we did not predict coronavirus, we had the building blocks, and therefore we could quickly turn the buttons on and move into your crisis management mode without missing a single beat. So one of the significant aspects of quantum marketing will be crisis management. You have to be geared up for crisis management. I'll touch upon another area, which is today, marketing is in some kind of an existential crisis. Talking of crisis, the whole function itself is undergoing a major crisis. Many CMO roles are being eliminated at many companies. These are not some obscure industrial products, which anyway don't do too much of marketing in a real sense or in a classical sense. There is now a slew of companies which are hardcore packaged goods companies, which are doing away with the role of CMOs. Examples, Coca-Cola, you got Hershey's, you got Kraft, you got so much Johnson & Johnson, you got so many companies. These are blue chip companies. And when they are doing away with the role of CMOs, that tells you something is happening. Also, many companies have divided marketing. If you look at the classical definition of Philip Kotler of what marketing is, you talk about the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, promotion. Product, most of the companies now have it as a separate organization. Probably FMCG companies or packaged goods companies are maybe the exception. But even there, I see the trend is very dramatically changing. So you don't manage product as a marketer. Pricing is not done by you. It's done either by the product people or by the finance people or by the sales people. So that's outside your purview. You don't do packaging, because you may be designing at best, but even that, if the product organization is separate, you don't do that either. Then promotion. You do thematic promotions, but the schematic promotions are done in the field by the people like sales or account people. And so you have to ask, if all the 4 P's of marketing are taken out of marketing, what do these people do? And what are they doing? So the point is, marketing is getting fragmented. And there are companies which are eliminating the roles of the CMOs from the C-suite. They no longer are occupying seats at the CEO's table. Why is that so? It is because marketers have not kept pace with the technology revolution happening and with the data revolution happening. Classically, if you look at marketers, they have come from the creative side of the house. They grew up through the creative side. That's what they are fantastic at. However, marketing has become also highly quantitative. It has become highly technology driven. So much so that the agenda of the marketers literally has been hijacked. And now it is a technology folks, it's a data folks, it's people outside of marketing who are managing those areas and who are actually defining where the future goes. And marketers are sort of following and trying to catch up desperately, so to speak. Now, the other issue with the way marketers have been trained, and because they are not either intuitively quantitative or technology savvy, when a CEO or a CFO asks a marketer, I'm investing hundreds of millions of dollars or even tens of millions of dollars into marketing campaigns, what am I getting? Either to the bottom line of the company or the top line of the company? And if the answer of the marketer is to say, oh, well, the brand awareness has gone up, the brand recognition has gone up, the net promoter has gone up, you have lost your credibility already. It looks like you are hiding behind marketing jargon. Marketing KPIs are critical. They are critical to you as marketers. Outside of marketing, people couldn't care much about this. You have to answer financial questions in financial language. You have to answer business questions in business language. And if you're caught like deer caught in headlights, when asked these kind of questions, you're not only losing credibility for yourself, but you're also destroying the credibility of your function. So marketers have to retrain themselves. As the competition is getting more and more brutal, as the distribution chains are becoming more and more complex, as the supply chains are going to be completely different, how they are evolving, and as the consumers are having a plethora of choice, and there's a democratization of practically everything, as a marketer, if you don't upgrade your skills and stay contemporary, you are going to be obsolete pretty quickly. And you will see the change. Now, thank God, at a place like Coke, they have brought the CMO back after a gap of 2 years. Hopefully, they have felt the gap and they feel the need, and therefore they have brought back the person. But the point I'm trying to make is that there is going to be a significant way that marketers have to reprogram themselves. It's not just upskilling. They have to think like business managers. They have to think like general managers. They should know technology. They should know data. They should know PR. They should know business financials. They should know the drivers of the business. They should be able to integrate all these with solid leadership, yet not lose their grounding in marketing. There should be fantastic general managers with a deep understanding and specialization in marketing as opposed to marketing specialists. I'm being very provocative when I'm saying that the days for marketing specialists are numbered. So this is one big change that's going to happen within quantum marketing. I'll go to a couple of other quick areas. One is areas like advertising. When consumers are, as a consumer, let me look at myself. I hate advertisements. When I'm watching a nice video, maybe it's a Bollywood song or I'm watching a animal video, every few minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever is the gap, an ad comes and destroys my experience. That is an annoyance, it is an irritation, it is an interruption. We keep talking about fantastic consumer experience. This is anything but. In that kind of a scenario, what do I do? As an informed consumer, in spite of the fact that I'm a marketer, I say, to hell with this platform, I'm getting away from it. Or I say, I'm done with these ads, here is money, let me pay, and get into an ad-free environment like a Netflix or a Hulu or YouTube Red or whatever. Or I put ad blockers if I'm tech savvy. And already there are 600 million plus devices. The estimates go all the way up to 2 billion. I don't know where the real number is, but there are hundreds of millions of people who have already put ad blockers on their digital devices. What is it telling you? When people are leaving advertising environment in droves, and if you are still holding on to the old model of classically advertising and all that stuff, you are being irrelevant. You have to see the trend and what is happening. So I keep saying provocatively again, advertising, the way we know it, is dead. We have to reinvent. You need to have alternatives for this space. Likewise, another last example I would want to give, which is about loyalty. Now, I found an interesting study which said that almost 75% of the people who are married are not loyal to their spouses. They have cheated them. Look at the 3 out of 4 people. This is after taking an explicit commitment till death do us apart, or they take a religious vow with some mantras or whatever it is, or they do it a legal contract depending on the culture, and they know that there are consequences if they are not loyal. If they are caught philandering, they are going to lose their reputation. They might have financial implications. They have definitely emotional implications too. In spite of it, people go and cheat. What does it tell you as a marketer? Maybe people are not hardwired for loyalty. So therefore, are we stupid as marketers to believe that people are going to be loyal to our brands when they are not even loyal to their spouses after all the commitments and the consequences? There are no commitments they make to your brand, or there are no consequences to them really if they don't buy my product. But even in areas of commitment and consequence, if they are not being loyal, how realistic and reasonable it is for marketers to expect loyalty from our consumers. On the other hand, is loyalty a useless phenomenon? Absolutely not. Loyalty needs to be reinvented.